My name is Nova Keene, 23 years old. The chandelier over the private room at Mazzini's threw warm light across linen and glass, like someone had staged a dream and told us to behave inside it. I'd spent 2 extra shifts at the bookstore to buy the red dress I was wearing, clean lines, a brave shade, and the fabric held my spine the way hands never had. As I stepped in, conversations paused, then turned in my direction, and I felt, for a heartbeat, like a room could look at me without asking me to pay for it later. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, kissing the air beside Samuel's cheek. He smelled faintly of sawdust and coffee, the way he always did after long days, with blueprints that owned him. He gave me the thin smile he kept for peacekeeping and touched the knot of his new tie, muttering, "Looks good, kiddo." His eyes skittered away to the cake, the candles, the logistics. Dad likes moving parts. He hates sparks. "Nova," Mom sang, syllables polished smooth. Beatrice had dressed like a verdict, cream silk, pearls, stacked like armor, and made sure the seat beside her was blocked by her handbag. Across from her, Scarlet swirled wine like it was a spotlight she could drink. 4 years older, a talent for spectacle, cheekbones sharp enough to split a room in half. She eyed my dress and smiled the way a cat smiles at a glass bird. Lily lifted her phone at the bar and gave me a covert thumbs up. Jen and Matt, classmates from campus and good at leaning into awkward moments with humor, grinned from the far end. My shoulders dropped a fraction. It wasn't just me in here. The quartet in the corner slid into a standard. Forks chimed soft, the soundscape of expensive harmony. The first pass went fine. Dad opened gifts, the cousins clapped. Uncle Ray made a joke about permits. "Permits and fines can ruin you faster than a bad pour," Dad murmured, staring into his water glass. I watched that line hover in the air between us. His work, his worry, his excuse for silence, then float away. Mom asked the server whether the lighting could be less yellow for photos. Scarlet tilted my way like the room was a seesaw. "So," she said, voice pitched to Carrie, "red." She smiled, but it had teeth in it. "Bold choice, Nova." "It's Dad's night," I said lightly, wishing my pulse didn't sound like a knocked door. "I figured we could use some color." "Oh, you figured," Scarlet echoed, sip, sip. "Trying to keep the attention up? People might mistake you for important." A clink of glassware, a shift of eyes. I swallowed, kept the shape of a smile. Lily lifted her phone again, as if to say, "I see you." Mrs. Thompson, from down the street, the kind of neighbor who carries casseroles through blizzards, leaned toward me. "Honey, you look wonderful in that red," she said, soft and firm enough to place a brick at my back. Compliments stacked, 2, 3, and I felt a small warmth, the kind you cup with both hands. Scarlet watched that glow like it offended her. "Mazzini's really outdid themselves," Mom announced, reasserting control with tone. "We'll do the cannoli tower after the toast, and, Scarlet, don't lean, you'll wrinkle." Scarlet set her glass down, not gently. "Let's not pretend," she said, sweetness gone. "Some people are desperate for attention, that's all." Dad's jaw worked, and for a second, I saw something crackle, like he might say, "Enough." Then the server arrived with a tray, and he reached for logistics again. Relief visible. Mom looked at my neckline, then at the older couple across the table, and made her small public smile. "Family keeps problems inside the family," she said, the words casual as a napkin being folded. I felt heat crawl into my face. The room leaned toward me to hear which script I'd choose. I decided, stupidly maybe, to keep it light. "It's a dress, Mom." "No," Scarlet said, "it's pathetic." The slap came fast. I saw the shadow of her hand a beat before the heat, and then my cheek was on fire, and forks hung mid-air like a chorus that forgot its words. I tasted metal. The chandelier hummed. In the frozen frame right after, Lily's eyes went huge behind her phone. Jen and Matt half rose, unsure if moving would shatter the brittle glass of the scene. Dad stared at the bread plate, knuckles white on the knife handle. Mom's laugh came low and cold, cut to shape. "You deserved it," she said. The sentence landed and cracked. Something that had been hairline fractured for years. Not the part that wanted to run to the bathroom. Not the part that wanted to plead. The part that remembered Christmas. My scarf for Mom folded aside while Scarlet's tinny earrings were praised like diamonds. The part that remembered being told to cover my sister's phone bill because family helps family. The part that had learned to be a backdrop. Mrs. Thompson made a small sound, wounded, but no one moved. The quartet pretended their strings hadn't heard. Scarlet leaned back, triumphant, like she'd reset the universe. Mom checked her reflection in a spoon. I could have left. I could have performed forgiveness like I'd been trained to. Instead, I placed my napkin on the table without shaking. The fabric left a red smear of lipstick, proof that I had, in fact, been here. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said, and my voice didn't break. He looked up at the doorway behind me like it had the answers. "We'll talk later," he whispered, a promise handed to the wind. Outside, the air cut clean. Lily was at my elbow in seconds, steering me past the valet lights to the sidewalk's shadow. "Let me see," she said, thumb hovering near my cheek, the gentlest audit. Her fury was a heat all its own. "We're not letting this vanish." "I don't want to be a spectacle," I said, which was half lie, half prayer. I didn't want to be anything they could use as proof against me later. "You want reality," she said. "Truth doesn't belong to them. It belongs to whoever's brave enough to hold it." She looked toward the restaurant windows, toward silhouettes gesturing over dessert like nothing had happened. "You think they're going to make this right inside? Family keeps problems inside the family," she mimicked, eyes narrow. "That's a cage." My phone buzzed in my hand. Some reflexive hope sparking perhaps Dad, perhaps a simple text. "Are you okay?" It wasn't. A notification from an old classmate. "Saw what happened. Do you need a ride?" The evening had already begun to fray into versions. Inside, Mom would call it a misunderstanding, passion. Scarlet would say I provoked her with a dress. Dad would reroute into silence and schedules. Out here, the night had witnesses who weren't trained to applaud. "Lily," I said, throat tight, "if we do this, we can't half do it." "We won't," she said. "We'll be careful. We'll be kind. We'll be undeniable." Back at my apartment, we turned the soft yellow of my desk lamp on and the overhead off. It felt like a dark room for evidence. Lily scrolled through the shots she'd taken and winced when the clearest one hovered. Scarlet's hand mid-arc, my face shocked, Mom behind me with her mouth making a word that looked like deserved. Jen texted 2 frames from the other end of the table. Matt sent time-stamped video trimmed to the relevant 8 seconds. We watched it twice. 3 times. The third time, my eyes weren't on Scarlet's hand or my cheek. They were on Dad's small flinch, there and gone, like a secret he had with himself. "We anonymize guests," Lily said, toggling blur tool. "We keep the focus where it belongs." Her fingers flew. "You right. Calm, not vengeful. The calm will cut." The keyboard felt heavy at first, then right-sized. This is what happened at my father's birthday dinner tonight. I typed facts first. The slap, Mom's laugh, the room's stillness. Then the years, phone bills. I'd been pushed to pay, my writing contest certificate tucked under a grocery list, red earrings praised over my scarf. I named names because it had been me unnamed for so long. I added and deleted, and added again a line about how silence can be the worst sound a parent makes. Lily hovered, reading over my shoulder. "Hashtag?" she asked softly. "Red alert," I said, and saw the dress, the emergency, the refusal to go dim all at once. We posted on her account first, then mine. I expected nothing and everything. What came felt like a door unlatching across town. Pings stacking. "Are you okay? I'm so sorry. That's abuse. This happened to me. You're brave. Here's a women's group. I've always wondered about your mom. We saw things too." A local blogger DM'd for permission to embed the video. Lily's phone pulsed. "Trending Boston," she whispered, stunned and buzzing. Between messages, a new notification slid in from an unknown number. "Take it down before you regret it." My stomach went cold. Lily screenshot it. "Proof of pressure," she said, eyes flat. "We expected that." I stared at the wall where lamplight turned a rectangle warm. For years, I'd been told to be practical. Be quiet. Be less. The slap was a sign, yes, but really it was punctuation on a sentence I hadn't written. Maybe this was me picking up the pen. Inside Mazzini's, the cannoli tower was probably leaning under too much sugar. Someone would blow out candles and pretend wishes come true by tradition. Out here, my face still stung, and my hands were steady over a keyboard that remembered everything I'd typed and deleted and finally said. "Nova," Lily said, voice softer now. "You sure?" I imagined my mother's pearls clicking in a small bowl, my sister's wine glass ringing the air like a tuning fork, my father choosing the blueprint over the blaze. I imagined Mrs. Thompson's gentle, outraged eyes. I imagined the red dress hanging against my closet door, courageous anyway. I nodded. "I'm sure," I said. And then the room filled with the sound of other people's courage answering mine. By morning, my phone was a battlefield. Notifications swarmed the screen like sparks from a fire I hadn't expected to spread this fast. Hashtag Red Alert was everywhere, from classmates reposting with disbelief to strangers tagging me with words like solidarity and finally seen. Some comments were raw confessions. My sister did the same. My mom always laughed when my brother mocked me. Others were furious. "Press charges. Don't let them silence you." Lily sprawled on my couch, eyes bloodshot but electric from monitoring the feeds all night. "It's not just a post anymore, Nova," she said, scrolling fast. "It's a movement. Look, your videos and a blogger's morning roundup. They called it family betrayal at birthday bash." I pressed my hand against my cheek, still faintly tender from Scarlet's slap. "They're going to hate me for this." "They already hated you," Lily countered. "At least now the world knows what hate looks like." Still, guilt prickled. Neighbors, co-workers, even Dad's construction buddies were seeing pieces of my life stripped bare. What if I'd gone too far? What if I'd handed Scarlet exactly the attention she craved? But then I opened a DM from a woman named Marissa. "Your post gave me the courage to leave my abusive fiancé. Thank you." My doubts faltered. That night, the women's group that had reached out sent another message. "You're not alone. If you'd like to attend a meeting, doors are open." I didn't reply yet. Just knowing the invitation existed felt like a lifeline coiled within reach. By the second day, the backlash arrived. Not from strangers, but from my family. The buzzer to my apartment rang sharp, insistent. I froze, dread buzzing under my skin. When I cracked open the door, there they were, Mom, Dad, Scarlet, and Aunt Josephine. Mom's eyes were flinty, her jaw tight. "Take it down, Nova," she said without preamble. "You're humiliating this family." Scarlet stood behind her, arms crossed, lips curled in venomous disdain. "You really think you're some kind of martyr in that cheap red dress? You're pathetic." Dad hovered at the back, gaze glued to the hallway carpet, a man pretending he'd wandered into the wrong house. Josephine lingered by the doorframe, lips pressed tight like she'd swallowed something sour. I gripped the knob, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "I'm not taking it down. You humiliated yourselves. I just showed people the truth." Scarlet's nostrils flared. "God, you're such a drama queen." "Enough." Josephine's voice cut through the air like a clean blade. Every head turned toward her. She stepped forward, wringing her hands, eyes darting from me to Mom. "She's not lying. And we all know it." Mom spun toward her sister-in-law, outrage spilling across her face. "Josephine!" But Josephine plowed on, voice trembling. "Scarlet's been stealing for years, and you—" She jabbed a finger at Mom. "You've been covering it up." The air shifted. Scarlet's smirk faltered, her cheeks paling. I blinked, the words slow to land. "What are you talking about?" Josephine's shoulders sagged as though she'd carried this weight forever. "When Scarlet was 20, she stole $5,000 from my account. I found out, but Beatrice begged me not to press charges. Said she was just struggling, that it would ruin her future." My stomach lurched. 5,000? Scarlet looked away, muttering, "It was a long time ago." "Not long enough," Josephine snapped. Her eyes, wet with regret, turned back to me. I should have spoken up sooner, but I thought I was protecting the family. Memories rearranged themselves in my head like puzzle pieces flipping over. The endless bills I was guilted into covering, the unexplained shortfalls, Mom's relentless mantra, family helps family. It had never been about helping, it had been about hiding. I turned to Mom, my voice sharp enough to cut. "You knew, and you still forced me to pay her debts." Mom lifted her chin, arms folded tight. "She's your sister. Family sticks together." A laugh broke from me, jagged and hollow. Family doesn't slap family. Family doesn't steal and lie and use one daughter to bankroll the other. Dad finally spoke, voice low, almost pleading. "Nova, let's just talk this out." I met his eyes. "You never talked when I needed you to, Dad. Not once." He dropped his gaze back to the carpet. Silence. His favorite refuge. Josephine stepped closer, her hand tentative on my shoulder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I looked at all of them. My mother, hard as stone. My sister, shaken but still clinging to arrogance. My father, too cowardly to choose. And something inside me settled into certainty. "I'm cutting you off," I said. "No more money, no more contact. I'm done being your doormat." Mom's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this." I straightened my spine. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office. The slap photos and witness statements spread across the desk like ammunition. My signature didn't tremble as I filed an assault report against Scarlet. It wasn't just about the slap. It was about reclaiming my life. And for once, I didn't feel alone walking out. A week later, my lawyer called just after dawn. I sat at my kitchen table, half a cup of cold coffee in front of me, heart rattling like loose change. "It's over," she said. "The judge issued the ruling this morning. Scarlett's guilty of misdemeanor assault, 100 hours community service, and a 2-year restraining order. She can't contact you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe, not because I was afraid, but because the air felt lighter than it ever had. Lily was the first person I called. She screamed into the phone, loud enough to make me laugh through tears. "Do you hear that, Nova? Consequences. For once in her life, she actually has to face consequences." But the fallout didn't end with Scarlet. By afternoon, Beatrice's name was plastered across local blogs and Facebook threads. Screenshots of her cold laugh circled like vultures. A neighbor commented, "That's the mother who laughed when her daughter got slapped." Invitations dried up. The book club she'd ruled for years quietly folded without her. At church, people turned their backs. Her vague apology post, "Families go through tough times, don't believe everything online," was ripped apart in the comments. "You enabled abuse. Shame on you. Your silence was violence." I didn't feel pity. She had chosen her side every single time, and now the world finally saw it. Dad left me a voicemail. His voice was tired, thinner than I remembered. "Nova, I don't want to lose you. Let's move forward." I listened once, then deleted it. Moving forward had always meant me swallowing everything while he stayed quiet. I wasn't going back to that. Josephine, though, sent an email. Long, unpolished, full of pauses. I thought keeping silent would hold the family together. All it did was break you further. "I'm sorry. I should have defended you years ago." I sat with that message a long time before replying. "Thank you. It matters now." At therapy, Dr. Ramos, a soft-spoken woman with sharp eyes, gave me a term for what my family had done. Instrumental love. Love that functions like a tool, a currency. Affection only in exchange for usefulness. Hearing it named hurt, but it also freed me. One evening, as Lily and I scrolled through the feeds, she nudged me. "Look at this." An anonymous account had messaged me a photo, a notebook page in familiar, looping handwriting. Across the top, family contributions, columns with names. Beside mine, owes loyalty, owes money. The sight made my stomach clench. Proof, not of a crime, but of a mindset. I didn't need to ask whose writing it was. My mother had always kept ledgers, only I'd never realized I was one of the accounts. Lily squeezed my arm. "You know what this means, right?" I nodded. "It means I was never a daughter. I was a balance sheet." The next night, I went to the women's group meeting. I didn't speak. I just sat in a circle of folding chairs, listening as strangers told stories that echoed my own. Sisters who stole, mothers who mocked, fathers who vanished into silence. At the end, a woman named Sarah pressed my hand and whispered, "Your post gave me the courage to leave." For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt seen. And I knew then, my story wasn't just survival, it was fuel. Stop! A week later, my lawyer called just after dawn. I sat at my kitchen table, half a cup of cold coffee in front of me, heart rattling like loose change. "It's over," she said. "The judge issued the ruling this morning. Scarlett's guilty of misdemeanor assault, 100 hours community service, and a 2-year restraining order. She can't contact you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Not because I was afraid, but because the air felt lighter than it ever had. Lily was the first person I called. She screamed into the phone, loud enough to make me laugh through tears. "Do you hear that, Nova? Consequences. For once in her life, she actually has to face consequences." But the fallout didn't end with Scarlet. By afternoon, Beatrice's name was plastered across local blogs and Facebook threads. Screenshots of her cold laugh circled like vultures. A neighbor commented, "That's the mother who laughed when her daughter got slapped." Invitations dried up. The book club she'd ruled for years quietly folded without her. At church, people turned their backs. Her vague apology post, "Families go through tough times, don't believe everything online," was ripped apart in the comments. "You enabled abuse. Shame on you. Your silence was violence." I didn't feel pity. She had chosen her side every single time, and now the world finally saw it. Dad left me a voicemail. His voice was tired, thinner than I remembered. "Nova, I don't want to lose you. Let's move forward." I listened once, then deleted it. Moving forward had always meant me swallowing everything while he stayed quiet. I wasn't going back to that. Josephine, though, sent an email. Long, unpolished, full of pauses. I thought keeping silent would hold the family together. All it did was break you further. "I'm sorry. I should have defended you years ago." I sat with that message a long time before replying. "Thank you. It matters now." At therapy, Dr. Ramos, a soft-spoken woman with sharp eyes, gave me a term for what my family had done. Instrumental love. Love that functions like a tool, a currency. Affection only in exchange for usefulness. Hearing it named hurt, but it also freed me. One evening, as Lily and I scrolled through the feeds, she nudged me. "Look at this." An anonymous account had messaged me a photo, a notebook page in familiar, looping handwriting. Across the top, family contributions. Columns with names. Beside mine, O's loyalty, O's money. The sight made my stomach clench. Proof. Not of a crime, but of a mindset. I didn't need to ask whose writing it was. My mother had always kept ledgers, only I'd never realized I was one of the accounts. Lily squeezed my arm. "You know what this means, right?" I nodded. "It means I was never a daughter. I was a balance sheet." The next night, I went to the women's group meeting. I didn't speak. I just sat in a circle of folding chairs, listening as strangers told stories that echoed my own. Sisters who stole, mothers who mocked, fathers who vanished into silence. At the end, a woman named Sarah pressed my hand and whispered, "Your post gave me the courage to leave." For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a shadow. I felt seen. And I knew then, my story wasn't just survival, it was fuel. In the weeks that followed, life started to look like mine again. The apartment, once just a stopgap between demands, began to feel like home. Lily and I scoured thrift stores for curtains that caught the light just right, framed prints of my favorite books, even a chipped vase I filled with fresh flowers every Friday. "This is your space now," Lily said, hammering a nail into the wall for a photo of the bookstore crew. For the first time, I believed her. I picked up more shifts at the shop, saving bit by bit. My manager asked if I'd run a small book club for teens on weekends. Standing in front of those kids, talking about stories and choices, I caught myself smiling, real, unguarded. It was a role that didn't drain me. It filled me. The online storm quieted, but ripples remained. Scarlet kept her distance. Court orders had a way of making even her pause, but whispers about her community service circulated. I didn't seek them out. Knowing she was forced, for once, to face consequences was enough. Mom, though, tried once. A plain envelope slid under my door one evening. Inside was a card with just 3 words in her handwriting. "I'm trying, Nova. No return address, no apology, no acknowledgement of the ledger or the slap or the years." I turned it over in my hands, heart twisting. Was it genuine? Manipulation? A trap to reel me back in? I didn't answer. I tucked the card in a drawer beside the anonymous photo of the ledger page. Boundaries meant I didn't have to solve her anymore. Therapy became a rhythm. Dr. Ramos pushed me to write about the red dress, not just as the symbol of that night, but as a choice. "What did it represent to you before the slap?" she asked. I thought back. Confidence, rebellion, the hope of being seen. By the end of the session, I realized the dress hadn't been ruined. It had been reforged. So I kept it, hanging at the front of my closet. Some nights, I'd catch its reflection in the mirror and see not the sting of Scarlet's hand, but the woman who stood up afterward. One Saturday, I attended another women's group meeting. This time, I spoke. My voice shook, but I told them about the slap, the ledger, the choice to walk away. When I finished, a hush settled, then a ripple of nods. Sarah, the woman who'd thanked me weeks ago, reached for my hand again. "You showed us we don't have to keep bleeding for people who call it love," she said. Driving home that night, the city lights blurred through my windshield. For years, I'd lived like I was on trial in my own family, defending my worth, waiting for a verdict that never came. Now, the verdict was mine to give. Back in my apartment, I slipped the red dress from its hanger. I didn't put it on, just let it sway in my hands, heavy and bright. In its folds, I saw humiliation, yes, but also defiance, and finally freedom. I hung it back up, whispered, "I'll never fade again," and turned off the light.